Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MLW Vault. I'm your host, Balin. Thank you so much for tuning back in here. After a little 2-week break, we are back with episode number 5, which is sure to be an interesting one. You read the title. I put all 14. I put every MLW MVP into a tier list, and we're going to try to find out who had the best MVP season of all time. I thought this was pretty good within the times right now, since Ryan Crouch was just named the 2023 MVP last week. So we're going to see how he stacks up against the other 13 MVPs, including him. We'll see how his 2023 season stacks up to his 2022 season, as he was the first player since Kyle Schultz in 2013-14 actually to win back-to-back MVP. So we're going to see how all of those stack up. Of course, we're going to keep in mind the kind of post-draft, pre-draft era. But like I said, we're going to kind of go into the tier list to see who has the best one. And then at the end, we're going to try to figure out who had the best MVP season in MLW history. So that is all coming up in this episode. Before all of that is going to happen, we are going to go over all of the 2023 award winners since the timing of when these episodes of this podcast have came out. The 2023 award show video on the MLW YouTube channel was released. So we're going to talk about those, see who won, go over their stats, see if we agree, if we don't agree. But on that, if you have not watched that video yet, is going to be the top link in the description of this episode. I thought it was super fun. Not a ton of people got to make it to the actual venue. Just because, I think it was just like the snow and the weather that ultimately took over. But it turned out great. I think it was a lot of fun. So we're gonna go over into that kind of around the league before this actual episode starts. So yeah, let's do that. Around the league is next. Okay, yes, we're still working on the transition here. Let's settle in. As I said earlier, the 2023 award video was released on Friday, January 26th. It was pushed back a week due to the weather. Not a ton of players got to be there, but I think they definitely made it good with what they had. So I think the video turned out great. Drew Davis did a good job. I'm seeing the whole thing. I loved all the jokes between Drew Davis and Sawyer Bean on that. If you have not been following the backlash from this Sawyer Bean trade that is happening on the Pipe It Up podcast, you are missing out. 2-3 weeks ago, Sawyer BN went on to talk his truth, to say why kind of this trade out of nowhere, in our minds, happened out of nowhere. We saw Brendan Zerlag be the one to be the move, and it was the Brendan Zerlag trade. It wasn't really the Sawyer BN trade. But after this episode, it is when we learned that there was a lot in Sawyer BN's eyes wrong with the Cobras organization, and kind of the vibes were off. Everything was just like BN wasn't working. He disagreed with a ton of moves that Drew Davis made. Even dating back to the World Series, when Drew apparently he could have said it more politely, but he was like, "Hey, if you put two guys on, we're going to pull you. We don't want you pitching to Norp." Which, in my mind, that's just a managerial move. Like, that's nothing like personal for BN. But anyway, it has been a wild ride over. It has been a wild 2 weeks over the Pipe It Up podcast. If you have not, I will link that show in the description of this episode. Be sure to check it out. It's been pretty interesting. But let's jump in here to the 2023 award winner. So to start it off, most improved went to Brendan Jorgensen of the Great Lakes Skaters. Not who I voted for. I can see the kind of like attractiveness of voting for Jorgensen. I wrote down all of his numbers from 2022 to 2023, and his offensive differences are tremendous. That is definitely what won this award for me. I personally voted for Trey Flood. I think, I agreed with what Sean, the stats guy on the Pipe It Up podcast, said, where he was like, Brendan Jorgensen has been good before, so I don't think he deserves most improved over a guy like Trey Flood, who's I voted as well. So it's okay. When we look at his stats, I mean, it's definitely most improved worthy. In 2022, he had a 6.79 OPS with a 228 average, 1 home run and 4 RBIs. And then last season had a 1,205 OPS, 3.64 average with 5 home runs and 11 RBIs, which means his OPS went up 526 points. His average went up 136 points, and he had 4 more home runs and 7 RBIs. So that alone warrants a vote. So I can say, I would rather take Flood, but I look at that and you just can't argue with the stats. So I'm happy that the Gators got something out of this season. In last week's episode, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, I stepped in as GM for the Great Lakes Gators, and I went over every move I thought that needed to be made. And I mean, overall, I think being is going to help, but that's not going to result in wins immediately. It's going to be a much more deeper rebuild. So, you know, it might be a tough year, maybe year after that. So I'm glad something's happening for the Gators as they're in the middle of this rebuild. So Brendan Jorgensen, congratulations. I'm happy for you. Wins the 2023 most improved. All right. Next up here, for the first time in MLW history, Rookie of the Year went to co-winners, as it was the two Magic Superstar rookies, Grant Miller and RJ Walgate. Grant Miller had the best hitting season in recent MLW history. In my opinion, might make a statement. I'm gonna have to do the research on that, but like maybe the greatest single season hitting performance in Meadows history. I don't want to back that up, but I mean that's a conversation topic. Miller had a 1,746 OPS with a 483 average. 483 average with 5 home runs and 15 RBIs. And those 5 home runs and 15 RBIs have an asterisk next to them because he only played 12 games. He could not make it for the final series of the year where the Magic played the Diamondbacks. The Magic ended up taking that series 2-1, which is surprising that they didn't have Miller. I can't remember. They might have. They won the series. I think I can't remember exactly, but nonetheless, if Miller was in that series, he definitely could have hit more home runs and hit more RBIs. So nonetheless, tremendous season. And then RJ Walgate, the other Magic rookie, followed up on the other side of the ball, 7-1 record, 107 ERA, 150 WHIP, and his overall strikeout to walk ratio was 56-19 over the season. So I'm also going to be saying this a lot. This is for the first time in MLW history. Rookie of the Year has co-winners, and this is the first Rookie of the Year in Metro Magic history. That is really what I'm going to be a broken record player on. At the beginning of the year, I kind of made a thing where I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to cheer for the Magic this season. I think they're on the come up. This sounds like they were always one of my favorite teams to watch. I think they've been like one of the most electric teams, because they'll lose for the first 4 series and then just absolutely, hence the name, they'll play some magic trick and get into the playoffs every time. And that was always so fun for me to watch. So coming into the season, I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna vote or I'm gonna kind of cheer for the Magic. It, I, in my kind of point of view with the league, I'm just better to not be a fan of specific teams and just kind of enjoy like the games as a whole. But so nonetheless, I think I was so happy to like read that this was the first Rookie of the Year in Magic history. They have a ton of awards later where it is also the first of that award in Magic history. So pretty special that we got to witness live last summer the greatest Magic team of all time. Very, very special there. So Grant Miller and RJ Walgate, they co-win Rookie of the Year. Next up here was Most Dedicated, which went to Casey Bennett, given by Kyle Schultz, the commissioner. I mean, didn't have a super big opinion on this one. Casey Bennett moved to be closer and more involved to the league and to the Meadows. Sounds awarded. I'm glad Casey Bennett got this award. I'm glad the Diamondbacks got something out of the year. I mean, Jimmy Norp did win an award later, but most dedicated to Casey Bennett. Not a lot to talk about here. I'm glad he won it. This next one here is a little bit of kind of interesting topic here. Most clutch went to AJ Ackerman of the Metro Magic. I don't know. Not who I voted for. I took Ryan Cratch. I think there are more guys I would have taken over Ackerman. I understand why he won just because of he put the Magic on his back in the playoffs and in the World Series actually, not a guy you'd expect to be the guy for the Magic at all. But I mean, I just have his postseason numbers here: 294 average, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and a 4.29 OPS, all in the postseason. And thinking that he didn't play a huge part in the Magic's win over the Preds in the ALCS. So all those numbers were from those 5 games of the World Series, which are remarkable. I'm not trying to take back from that. 3 home runs in the World Series is going to warrant a World Series MVP. If the Magic did not have AJ Ackerman, they would have gotten swept. That's plain and simple. Do I think he deserves most clutch? No. I think it was a major recency bias vote, in my opinion, just because those World Series videos were, they were the last ones of the season. So I think they were, I guess, more on people's minds. So I think, I kind of posed a question in my mind of like, well, most clutch could kind of be like a question of like you had one guy that you need to like put in a lineup to win a game. Who is it going to be? And like last season, I mean, obviously AJ Ackerman isn't going to be that guy for me, but I mean, I guess in a world I understand why he deserves this award. Um, but overall, I would have given it to somebody else. But still happy that the Magic got another one. Most clutch went to AJ Ackerman. Next up here is Cy Young, and this one I who I voted for got it. There was a ton of very, very tough competition for this award. But I think this might be the first time in a long time that a rookie has won Cy Young, as R.J. Walgate of the Metro Magic took home the 2023 Cy Young Award after his incredible, just ridiculous numbers on the mound. 7-1 record, 107 ERA, 150 whip. His overall strikeout to walk ratio was 56-19, and he pitched just over 25 total innings in that regular season. And he is the first Cy Young in Metro Magic history. So, like I said, kind of as like this, not really a true fan of the Magic. Um, it was still good to see, the Metro Magic get their respect after being just a terrible, terrible team for so long. So RJ Walgate, very, very glad for the young kid to get it. I definitely agree with that one. That is who I voted for. He didn't like have the best record or have the best ERA or the best whip, but he was like, I believe, second in all of those categories. So definitely deserved it. I could have seen it going to Jordan Robles, maybe Ryan Cratch. Ryan Cratch's numbers on the mound weren't like super eye popping, but when you actually watch the games, that is when you realize why Ryan Cratch is doing what he does. So RJ Walgate, I can give it to him. I'm glad he won Cy Young. Next up here we have, which in my mind should be coined now, the Jimmy Norp Award. 2023 Gold Glove went back to Jimmy Norp for the third time in a row, third consecutive season. 2021, 22, 23 is just Jimmy Norp. It is all Norp. This season there isn't really like a stat or anything to define this. So I went to the top 10 plays of the year and kind of like look at the one on defense. And Norp has 2 of the top 10 plays, number 9 and number 7 on defense. Of course, has won it 3 years in a row. Norp is a good defender. I know that's pretty shocking, but I think defense is very underutilized in today's SSMO or in today's MLW. I don't think teams practice it that much, or I guess practice it nearly as much as the Diamondbacks do. Like in my mind, the 3 teams that I think have the best defense is the D-backs, the Wildcats, and probably the Magic. Grant Miller was a candidate for this award, but I'm glad that Jimmy Norp did win it. So Jimmy Norb wins the Gold Glove. I think if he wins this one more time, we might as well just coin this the Jimmy Norb Gold Glove Award. So that is that. Next up here, Manager of the Year. Would have been a crime if it went to anybody other than Jack Agner. His accolades here from this season alone are pretty impressive. A 10-5 regular season record, won the American League regular season championship, which was the first in Magic history. Swept the Pacific Predators in the 2023 American League Championship Series, which was the first CS win in Magic history. And of course, cherry on top was the 2023 World Series champion. Came back from being down 0-2, which was the first MLW championship in Metro Magic history. Believe it or not, this is Jack Agner's third Manager of the Year. This award was first started in 2017, and from that point, Agner has just been. I mean, he's been the guy. I'm surprised he's won 3. I mean, I'm sure he definitely should have won this one. I don't really know how the other ones kind of got there. I think he has very, very good leadership and makes good managerial moves. I mean, everything he did kind of worked. He built this team from the ground up. Like you said in the post game after the World Series, he was like, so many faces have come in and out, but I think now the Magic have found their 6 or 7 guys to really run with for the next couple of years. So I would honestly think that Jack Agner should opt out of his pick. I mean, it's the 8th overall unless they have a super solid stud. I mean, I just don't really see where this team lacks. I mean, maybe you could get another solid hitter to try to back up Grant Miller. But do not fix what's not broken. So many, and not just MLW, sports in general, so many managers just like make moves and they don't need to. And I don't think Jack Agner does not need to make any moves this offseason. I think he should definitely try to return with what he got. So, Manager of the Year proudly went to Jack Agner. Definitely deserves it. Love that guy. Definitely deserved it. All right. One of the players that Jack Agner drafted in the 2023 draft, the number 1 overall pick, went to the Silver Slugger, which was Mr. G. Millie, Grant Miller. Like I said, tremendous season earlier. I don't know if I said this. I had to re-record this whole segment, but I made a statement that it's up for conversation that Grant Miller has had the greatest single season hitting performance in the Meadows era, which I don't want to stand on that statement. I would really have to go into the research for that. But his numbers were astronomical, especially for today's MLW. This is incredible. A 1,746 OPS, followed by a near 500 batting average at 483, which is incredible. 5 home runs, 15 RBIs, and in 12 games. He could have played 3 more games against the Downtown Diamondbacks, a series which the Magic won, I think. I can't remember exactly. If he hits, he could, he could have a good series and hit for, 2 more home runs, and that's 7, and that would take him for. It's hard to believe that Grant Miller actually ended in second place in home runs over Tommy Coughlin, who had 4 in Philly, had a kid TC4. But Grant Miller, tremendous season on the plate. That this was the kind of most unanimous vote. I think, like Sean said on the Pipe It Up podcast, that this should be the most closest to the most unanimous vote for Grant Miller to win Silver Slugger. So I'm very, very intrigued to see how Grant Miller and RJ Walgate both follow up next season to see if they kind of stay on the same pace. I could see RJ Walgate having a little bit of an off year on a mound, but I could definitely see Grant Miller just maybe even topping his numbers from last season, even if it's possible. So Grant Miller, Silver Slugger, which leads us to the 2023 most valuable player. My vote when I ran through my entire ballot in episode number 2, just go check it out. Check it out if you haven't. I voted for Jordan Robles as my guy for 2023 MVP. But once I heard his name, I was not mad about it whatsoever. Your most valuable player for this 2023 of Major League Football was Ryan Cratched. on the plate had a 1,088 OPS, 377 average, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, and on the mound, 5-4 record, flat 1 ERA, 154 WHIP, with over 84 strikeouts, followed by only 29 walks in that overall ratio. Again, if you don't watch the games, you look at those numbers and you go, okay, that's solid. That's solid, but you know, I think there are more eye-popping stats, and for this singular season, he doesn't deserve it. If you watch the games, you just realize how much of a different level Ryan Cratch is playing right now. I mean, in that Cobras series, which was Preds versus Cobras in slate 5 of last season, he's playing with his food. His pitching was on a different level. Like, it was so creative and very, like, I don't know, untouchable even. I mean, it's just, I think creative was kind of the best way to do it, like doing spins and no looks and these weird, like, jumping off the mound as he, like, sidearm slings it into the zone. He definitely, I deserves it 100%. I still, of course, kind of stand by my vote of taking Jordan Robles. I think he had a better singular season than Ryan Cratch did. But overall, I think Cratch could even win it next season. I mean, he's just on a different level than most guys this league. So he is the first back-to-back MVP since Kyle Schultz in 2013, 2014, and it is the third MVP of his career. Question is, could he go three-peat in 2024? I think it is very possible. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's see how this goes. It's time to get into the kind of beef of this episode here. I am going to put every MLW most valuable player into a tier list. All 14 MVPs dating back to 2010. 2010, Kyle Schultz, ranging all the way to 2023, Ryan Cratch. Going to be going one by one. We're going to be going over their numbers on the plate, at the mound, everything they accomplished that year, what awards they had, if they were an all-star or not, their World Series outcome, everything to try and put it in a tier in this tier list. So, if you are unfamiliar, the tiers in order go S, A, B, C, and D. So I'm not sure how it started. S is now number one. It's the best, and then followed by A, B, C, and D at the end. I don't think I can come to put anybody in tier D. Um, I mean, and then again, so what we're kind of going to be grading this on is ultimately just like how impressive all of, like, each individual season is, and which one kind of stands out in all of these 14 player seasons. So it's going to be pretty interesting, of course, kind of in the sense of it all. Every MVP season gets to go in S tier or A tier because they accomplished great things and they put up remarkable numbers and led the league in so many things, all season long. That, of course, should result in a good rating. So we're gonna kind of be, eliminating everything else from it and just looking at this group of 14 players and seeing which one is the best. And then again, of course, I'm a big advocate for the draft era to pre-draft of the years 2010 to 2019, all of those MVPs to then 2020 to 2023. So, I mean, we're just going to kind of see how this goes. So, let's jump right into it here. Starting off in the inaugural season in 2010, your MVP was Mr. Kyle Schultz. His numbers at the plate as a 8-year-old were rather impressive. A 1,455 OPS with a 518 batting average, 4 home runs, and 76 RBIs. That's that enough S tier. No. And on the mound, just incredible numbers. 12 on record, 1.84 ERA, 1.65 WHIP, with an overall strikeout to walk ratio of 64-13 over the regular season. That year, Kyle Schultz also won Cy Young Most Dedicated, was an All-Star, won the Home Run Derby, and ultimately won the World Series that season in 4 games over the Eastern Eagles. and was elected World Series MVP and threw a perfect game in Game 4. So those are impressive numbers. Where that's straight up. Those are pretty solid numbers there. It's tough to grade these 9, 10-year-old players to then Cratch, who's 22 or something, who's putting up kind of similar numbers. But kind of we're gonna again kind of keep it all in somewhat perspective of young age is going to be a little bit lower just because of that. Um, about the kind of competitiveness within the league and how much it has changed. So these are always going to be, a little, they're always gonna kind of have an asterisk to them in these super young seasons, just because they don't have a ton to show, just because the league was a lot easier to play in and thrive in back then. So um 2010 Kyle Schultz, super solid OPS, incredible plus 500 average, 76 RBIs is great. I mean, accomplished a lot of things. Was the best pitcher, most dedicated. Throwing a perfect game in the World Series again. They did play the same guys all season long, but that's impressive nonetheless. So 2010 Kyle Schultz. I mean, I don't know if I can reach as high to A right now, just because of I know kind of what we're gonna see in the kind of the 20s era. So starting off with 2010 Kyle Schultz, we're gonna go ahead and put him in a solid B tier. I think that's very respectable start. We're kind of just we're set in the stone, right? We're just gonna we're testing the waters. We're gonna see how the rest of this is gonna go. So Kyle Schultz, 2010 season, we are going into tier B. All right. Following up here in the 2011 season, Mr. Schultz took it back to back. This season, his numbers were a lot more impressive, almost better in every single category. Especially offensively, had a 1,757 OPS, 604 batting average, which is incredible. 25 home runs and 83 RBIs. 14-2 record on the mound, 2.82 ERA, 1.67 WHIP. It's a tremendous strikeout to walk ratio of 84-6. That year won the Silver Slugger. That's deserving to say the least. Was an All-Star, won his second World Series in a row after a sweep over the Central Cardinals, and topped it off with a World Series MVP. Solid. Those are good numbers. If these numbers were put up in SSN or in MLW in 2024, that is Cy Young, that is Silver Slugger, that is MVP, and probably World Series MVP even if he didn't play. 2011 Kyle Schultz here. God, again, I don't know if I want to creep up to A quite yet, just because at this point in the league, it was still, or I guess it was 3 teams, so it did get a little bit more competitive, but still in the whole, you know, perspective of the league, we're going to match Kyle Schultz 2010 and 2011 seasons in Tier B, as those are two pretty similar numbers. His hitting got a lot better. But he's also 10 years old here. 2012, first ever non-MVP Kyle Schultz season. Mr. TC3, Tommy Coughlin wins MVP in 2012. Let's take a look here. 1,712 OPS, 518 average, 26 home runs, and 61 RBIs. Very similar to Kyle's season in 2010. Didn't pitch a ton. 4-1 record was a 3.86 ERA, 2.11 WHIP, and a 31-17 strikeout to walk ratio over the season. Solid numbers there. Not a ton to look at on the mound. I mean, his record was great overall, but ERA and WHIP could definitely be improved. But then his accolades, he won co-Gold Glove with Brendan Schultz, so was co-winners there. Won most clutch, was an all-star, and then for the third year in a row, Western Wildcats, this is when Tommy and Kyle were still on the same team. as they won the World Series together over the Nighthawks in 5 games. First ever World Series to go to 5 games. And Tommy Coughlin was awarded the 2012 World Series MVP with his walk-off home run in Game 5. So I'm sure that is what got him the most clutch award. So um, again, this one I definitely see these first 3 seasons kind of in the same bunch, maybe even 2013. So we're gonna go into B. We're gonna go into B here. Not a ton of variety so far. I like what I saw from Tommy. Um, and then he would retire 2 or 3 years later. Either in what year did they? I think it might have been 2014. It's either 2014 or 2016. Can't remember exactly. Um, but Kyle, I mean Tommy, solid numbers. We like what we see here. Most clutch, very solid. World Series MVP. That's going to be kind of good. I don't want to overlook that award a lot. So far here, first 3 seasons we got 2010 Kyle Schultz in Tier B, 2011 Kyle Schultz in Tier B, and then 2012 Tommy Coughlin as well in Tier B. Moving right along here, following Tommy Coughlin's 2012 MVP season, 2013 return to Mr. Kyle Schultz, as these numbers in 2013, they were still, little kids, not taking this super seriously. This is incredible, even for the circumstances of the league. A 2,185 OPS. 2,000, not 1,785. 2,185 OPS with a 633 average, 35 home runs, and 97 RBIs. Almost triple digit RBIs in the regular season. And on the mound, just got better. 10-2 record, 2.68 ERA, 184 WHIP with a 77-14 strikeout to walk ratio throughout the season. This year by Kyle Schultz set the record for the most home runs in a single season at 35. That is a record that will never be broken in MLW. I'm almost certain that, seeing how the league is going, and these past few years, 35 is untouchable. I would even argue that I think someone will beat Tommy. I think a double-digit home run season is going to come by one player one every 4 or 5 seasons, with how MLW is going. So, nonetheless, just video game numbers, more than video game numbers by Kyle Schultz. That year won Cy Young from his, I'm guessing, 10-2 record, and Silver Slugger, of course, was an all-star. For the first time ever, though, lost in the World Series. Wildcats lost to the Northern Nighthawks in a sweep, actually, although that series was competitive. So an 0-3 series loss to the Northern Nighthawks. No World Series MVP for Schultz because he was on the losing side. But this season is in conversation for the first A tier. I'm going to be completely honest here. Those numbers offensively, I don't think it's right to have them in the same tier as what we saw in 2010, 11, and 12. So with that said, we're gonna talk about it for a second. I'm gonna put 2013 Kyle Schultz, the first MVP season in Tier A. Man, this is it's a I am gonna give like the edge to the first 3 seasons because in my mind I take kind of their team outcome very heavily into it. But I mean, if we look at OPS, the highest OPS trying to match it would be a 175 or like 1,757. And the average did get into 600 to 604. No home runs even scratched that with 26 in second. And then RBIs, 83 was the closest. Yeah, no, these don't belong on the same tier. We're going to put 2013 Kyle Schultz right into Tier A, though. standing alone as that's kind of separating. I like that. I think that's a good spot for him. All right. 2014. Kyle Schultz once again. I mean, first 5 seasons, just tremendous run here by the kid. Won 4 MVPs in 5 years. This year's numbers were a little bit down compared to what we saw. A 1,836 OPS with a 600 average, 15 home runs, and 42 RBIs. It's unbelievable to think that those are like down numbers compared to what he put up in the first couple seasons. I mean, 15 home runs, that's pretty uncharacteristic, like, since he had 35 the year before, 25 in 2011, and okay, I guess 14 in 2010. But this year he won. He was a co-winner for Cy Young with his brother Daniel, won most clutch, and co-won most dedicated with Kyle Garricky. Of course, was an all-star. The Wildcats jumped on top, won the World Series in 5 games over the Eastern Eagles, and Mr. Kyle Schultz was the World Series MVP, and I think won most clutch as he hit a walk-off home run by Kyle in Game 5 to cement the Wildcats to their 4th World Series win in 5 years. So, Kyle Schultz. This year, I do think, looking at the numbers from 2013, they are, second down. His pitching got a lot better. 10-1 record, 2.16 ERA. It's a little high. 136 WHIP is good. 80 strikeouts to 7 walks is unbelievable. That alone could go into A. But looking at the 2013 season and how just bonkers he went at the plate, I do think 2014 Kyle Schultz deserves to go into tier B with most of the others. As I think really after maybe this kind of Daniel season is going to kind of be a real kind of transition here as we're going to get into definitely the bigger names here. So 2014 Kyle Schultz, we're going to go into tier B. All right. Here we go. New change, not in last name. Same old there. 2015, Daniel Schultz wins his first Most Valuable Player award. Good numbies at the plate. 1,785 OPS, 500 batting average, 17 home runs, and 34 RBIs. On the bump, had a 6-2 record, a high 3.20 ERA, but a solid, all right, 1.73 WHIP, with 52 strikeouts and 14 walks. Was an all-star. Didn't win any other awards that year as Daniel ultimately lost with the Eagles in the World Series to the Wildcats in 5 games in 2015. So this one is the first season where, it's good. Again, if this were to happen in 2024 for Major League Football, it'd be MVP, Cy Young, Silver Slugger. But looking at the numbers that we saw in 2013, 2014, and even peaking into 2016, this is a step below. Is it on the same level as the A's? I mean, the numbers are pretty much the same. Didn't have a ton of wins compared to what we what we normally see of like almost double-digit wins consistently. A very high ERA, not great WHIP at 1.73. This one we're gonna go into tier C. I think that's a good spot for it here. I'm glad Daniel did get one of that. Is his only MVP of his career. I think maybe Kyle and Daniel should have been swapped in 2015, 2016, since that was the first year that the Eagles did win the World Series. But let's jump in really quick here. 2016, Kyle Schultz remains on top. His 5th MVP, I believe. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, MVP number 5 in 7 years. This year had a 1,731 OPS, 465 average, 16 home runs, 25 RBIs on the mound, a 9-3 record, 204 ERA, 127 WHIP, and a 76 to 7. That's incredible. 76 to 7 strikeout to walk rate. That year just won the Silver Slugger. was an all-star, won the home run derby that year as well. But this was the first year that the Eastern Eagles won the World Series, as Kyle Schultz did lose with his Wildcats to the Eagles in 4 games in the 2016 World Series. So this one, um, looking at all of these numbers back to back, like having ultimately 0 break, is really kind of numbing me over for how just incredible these performances truly are. This is where the league really is getting more competitive. So we can definitely take that into fact now with still having 16 home runs, 25 RBIs is incredible. So um, it's not A. I'd be okay putting this one in B. I don't think it belongs in tier C whatsoever. Um, so I'd understand if you put it in C. I'm gonna go tier B of this MVP list, kind of joining that big group of the 2010, the 2012, and 2014. So 2016 Kyle Schultz MVP season we are putting into tier B. Moving right along here. Since the MVP was established in 2010, now in the season of 2017, for the first time in MLW history, the MVP does not have Schultz or Coughlin last name, as Noah Dabrico wins the Most Valuable Player award in 2017. His numbers had a 1,296 OPS, a 329 average, 12 home runs, 25 RBIs. On the mound was kind of that number 2 arm for the Mallards behind Tommy Coughlin, who actually won Cy Young that year, which is kind of surprising. You just look at Tommy, you don't really think, Cy Young in today's MLW, but Dabrico had a 3-2 record on the bump, 3.73 ERA, pretty high there, 198 whip, pretty high. 26 strikeouts to 3, only 3 walks all regular season. Pretty solid there. This year he won the Silver Slugger and most clutch, was an all-star, and won the first ever Mallards World Series in that of infamous 0-2 comeback to beat the Coastal Cobras in 5 games. Dabrico was awarded the World Series MVP, as this is now officially we are into competitive games here. So Noah Dabrico, again, in perspective of all of the numbers that we have seen of incredible OPSs, this is the lowest one, and this is also the lowest average. I think it's got to be. Yeah, sorry, I'm just going through it all. Yeah, so this is to this point, 2017. This is the lowest batting average. 12 home runs isn't super impressive. Well, of course, it's impressive, but in these group of 14 players, it's not that impressive. 25 RBI is super solid for the team. 3-2 record, 3.73 ERA, 198 WHIP. This one I'm in between B and C here. I think Dabrico and Daniel Schultz season, those are pretty similar. I just kind of argue the only difference that kind of separates Dabrico was the World Series MVP, and that he even won the World Series. But overall, the numbers, I mean, maybe he kind of popped off in the playoffs or postseason. I didn't like look at those when I was doing the research for this episode. So, man, I think for Noah Dabrico, we're gonna go tier C. I don't really want to leave Daniel Schultz stranding there. It was still a tremendous season overall. I mean, if he truly was the best player, the most valuable player for that entire season of MLW, then I mean, he definitely deserves it. So, Dabrico, we're gonna go tier C with 2015 Daniel Schultz, kind of keeping up the bottom. Of course, again, this is the bad part about this idea, is that you have the MVPs that are pretty low compared to Dabrico, who is, I don't know how old he was there, but kind of in a tier below the OGs when Kyle and Tommy are like 10 years old. But is what it is. We know this is all fun and games. So, following 2017, the man, the myth, the legend, just MVPs after MVPs, we have Mr. Kyle Schultz here. 2018 had a 1,840 OPS, 521 average, 13 home runs, 51 RBIs, 10-2 record on the mound, 1.87 ERA, 1.75 WHIP, and then a 76 strikeout to 36 walk ratio. This season, he was a Silver Slugger, most clutch, was an All-Star, won the Home Run Derby, and won the World Series in 4 games over the Midwest Mellors. That is when Kyle Schultz had Zach Pirok and Kelly. Kyle Schultz wins World Series MVP as well. Solid season. Again, these are all, I'm not gonna lie, they're kind of bleeding together for me. We're keeping strong here. Kyle, that 51 RBIs is super impressive. I don't know how he did not win Cy Young this year. Whoever that was in 2018, probably Dan. Must have been super impressive. I don't know if you can beat a 10-2 record. I can see how maybe a 1.87 ERA could be a little bit better, but knowing the age of how competitive the games were at this point, that is, that's incredible. If we look at, Ryan Crouch in 2023, he had a 1.0 ERA, but in 2022, 1.29. So, kind of, that same kind of general area there for earned run average. So 2018 Kyle, solid year. Nothing unbelievable in my opinion. I mean, it's definitely not tier C. I wouldn't match it with Dabrico. I think it's definitely a step up kind of stats wise. And the fact that he did also top it off for the World Series MVP and World Series win here. 2018 Kyle Schultz. Let's put it with tier B as well. So we really don't have a ton of A's right now. I think I maybe could squeak up one or two up there. But right now we're sticking to what we got here. So tier B is very, very full. They have 6 guys. It's 2010, or for Kyle, it's 2010, 2011, 14, 16, and 18, and then Tommy Coughlin in 2012. Let's keep on going here. 2019, we have the first of 3 of his career. Ryan Cratch in 2019, a 1,054 OPS on the plate, 319 average, 3 home runs, 19 RBIs, only 3 home runs. That is a low here in this group of players. On the mound, 9-2 record, 106 ERA, 132 WHIP, 84 strikeouts for 24 walks. Won the Most Improved Player, was an All-Star, and won the World Series. This was the year that Cratch got traded at the near the middle of the season from the Eastern Eagles to the Pacific Predators. Ends up playing the Eagles in the World Series where he dominated on the plate. Alec Warda won World Series MVP that season. But Cratch, I think, was such a role player for the Preds, took this team out of a very low spot. It was just looked like, another poor season, and then they add Cratch and they just absolutely explode. The Predominance was one of my favorite MLW documentaries. So Ryan Cratch here, nothing super special stats-wise. I'm not going to go to C, I don't think, just because of, this point. I mean, it was 8 teams. This was a first of the new, of kind of the modern era of MLW that we have it. So Cratch, I'm gonna go B here, adding again, kind of that same group of players with only one ahead, kind of one below here. But I think these now, as we get into the 2020s, I think these are where we're gonna see some A's and maybe even a couple S's. I wasn't exactly sure how long this episode would be, but I'm glad. I'm glad this is going the distance here. So we got 4 more MVPs to put on the tier list. See if maybe we can just wrap this up here. 2020 Kyle Schultz, the last so far of Schultz's illustrious career. This is his 7th MVP award. And this year, 2020, this was a weird COVID year. The year that the Great Lakes Gators won the World Series. That's a weird sentence. Kyle Schultz had a 1,244 OPS, 308 average, 7 home runs, 19 RBIs, 8-1 record, 0.59 ERA, 186 whip and 75 strikeouts with 35 walks. Was an all-star, but lost in the World Series to the Gators in 4 games. Now, here we go. This is where it is getting close to the utmost of the utmost. I think really it starts in 2021 where that is the highest competitive level for the league. So this was very solid from Kyle. That is just pitching alone. I mean, 8-1, 0.59 ERA. How's that even possible? Kyle, that's just ridiculous. Doesn't have the accolades to back it up, but I think now that, the league at this point was in a stage of how competitive it is, I'm willing to put this 2020 Kyle season into a man. I think I honestly, just for the pitching, I think I might have to. That is not even, nobody even touches that ERA on this entire list. I mean, the closest one would probably be Cratch with a 1 flat last season, but we're gonna go out of where the league was. I kind of like it. We're gonna go 2020 Kyle Schultz, matching his 2013 season in Tier A for his MVPs. That is the last we'll hear of Kyle. As here we got 2 players over the next 3 years here. And this next season is, right now, in my opinion, the greatest single season performance of all time. I want to make a full episode where I really go into this, but this season is 2021 Jimmy Norp. God, the flashbacks are just unbelievable. Norp, a 1,594 OPS, 391 average, 11 home runs, 34 RBIs, and this is 2021, considered today's MLW. This is competitive wiffle ball. On the mound, 7-1 record, 1.53 ERA, similar whip, 1.53, 64 strikeouts to 21 walks. He won the Cy Young, won the Co-Silver Slugger with Nick Saylor, won Gold Glove, won Most Clutch, was an All-Star, won the World Series over the Wildcats, and World Series MVP. I amped it up at the beginning. This, in my mind, is, I mean, I can make a statement right now and maybe, look at it later, that this is the greatest single season performance of all time. And when you look at, numbers wise, this is just another MVP season. This is in the 20s. This is played in the greatest MLW series of all time in the 2021 World Series. So much emotion, dominates in the regular season. I mean, the 1,500 OPS, nearly 400 average, 34 RBIs is incredible in today's MLW. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first S tier MVP. Give me 2021 Jimmy Norp in Tier S. As here to wrap it up, we have the 2022 and 2023 Ryan Cratch seasons here. Let's go into 2022. Solid 1,055 OPS, 333 average with 7 home runs and 17 RBIs. 6-3 record on the mound with a 1.29 ERA, 188 whip, 64 strikeouts to 27 walks. Was an all-star. Won the home run derby, but lost in the ALCS in 3 games to the Coastal Cobras. Again, numbers-wise, nothing really stands out. But you caught with Ryan Crash, I'm telling you, you have to watch him play to understand the level of greatness that we have with him. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Plays he plays collegiate baseball. I'm 95% sure with Alma College. For it depends with players in the league if that directly correlates to playing good wiffle ball or if it doesn't. With Cratch, it 100% does. Just so fun to watch him play. I'm actually very excited because I ordered the black Moxie jersey, or the matte black Moxie jersey with yellow pinstripes, the Preds one. So in Cratch's number, so I'm super pumped for that. But 2022 Ryan Cratch, not quite to the legendary level that Jimmy Norp is, but we are going 100% Tier A for Ryan Cratch in 2022. Being on the same levels of 2013 Kyle and 2020 Kyle. Final one here. most recently announced about a week ago. 2023 Ryan Cratch had a 1,000 plus 1,000 OPS, 377 average, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs, 5-4 record on the mound, 1 flat ERA, 152 WHIP, 84 strikeouts to 29 walks. Was an all-star, won the home run derby for the second year in a row, but lost his second straight ALCS in a sweep to the Metro Magic, which was very surprising. I know a ton of people had the Preds. They were the hottest team. The Preds were a fun team to watch in 2022. When they're fun, they're fun, and when they're bad, they're really not fun. They can add the most life to the sport and to the league than any team, not even close. And then, we see them get swept by RJ Wallgate and the Magic in the rain, and you're like, this is not a team I want to root for. So, but when that team got rolling in the second half after their 2-7 start, they went a perfect 6-0 in their second half. They won an unbelievable series in the ALDS over the Wildcats, all led by this 2023 Ryan Cratch. I definitely just thought he deserved this MVP. I, of course, voted for Jordan Robles, and I still think I stand by that vote. As this 2023 Ryan Cratch, we are going to put into Tier A, again, because of how fun he was to watch, what he does year after year. And I kind of want to say something for pitching records. In my kind of baseball centered mind, pitching wins and losses isn't really the most um I don't know, best way to represent a pitcher, and especially in MLW, it's very not because of how short the games are. um the win-loss for pitchers is mostly determined by if their offense can produce runs. So on teams where Cratch's offense can score, the Preds can be on and off, but when they are really good, then Cratch can get more wins on the mound. And I think really since um they had that very slow first half, I think that's why his record was kind of even at 5-4. But nonetheless, Ryan Cratch goes into 2023 season going into Tier A, as that completes our tier list for MVPs here. Let's recap it. Going from the bottom, in Tier C, we have 2015 Daniel Schultz and 2017 Noah Dabrico. In Tier B, we have a full one: 2010 Kyle Schultz, 2012 Kyle Schultz, 2012 Tommy Coughlin, 2014 Kyle Schultz, 2016 Kyle, 2018 Kyle, and 2019 Ryan Cratch. In Tier A, 2013 Kyle Schultz, 2020 Kyle Schultz, and then both Ryan Cratch's back-to-back MVPs in 2022 and 2023. And then the single greatest MVP season of all time. Give me 2021 Jimmy Norp. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I think this turned out pretty well. Top link in the description is going to be the award video on the MLW YouTube channel. If you have not, be sure to check that out. Second link, I will put the Pipe It Up podcast. I definitely, if you guys have not listened to the beef between Drew Davis and Sawyer BN, be sure to do that. Third link, you can subscribe to the MLW Vault YouTube channel. We're going to be pretty active on the community section and shorts section as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 5 of MLW Vault. I'll see you all next time.